The door slammed so hard the framed diplomas rattled on Dr. Ellis's wall. "You're crossing a line," I said, voice cracking louder than I intended. My hand shook as I gripped the armrests. Across from me, he didn't flinch. He just watched, calm blue eyes steady behind thin wire frames, like he'd been expecting this explosion for weeks. I hadn't planned to yell. I hadn't planned any of it. One minute we were talking about my father's latest email, the usual mix of disappointment and scripture, and the next minute his hand was on my wrist, not clinical, not professional, just warm. Too warm, and I hadn't pulled away. That was 3 minutes ago. Now the silence stretched between us like a live wire. "I'm sorry," he finally said. Quiet. Sincere. "I shouldn't have touched you." But he didn't move his hand. Neither did I. "My name is Caleb Morrow, 26, graphic designer at a mid-size agency in Portland, Oregon. 6'1" on a good day, runner's build, dark hair I keep short because it's easier. Hazel eyes people say look sad, even when I'm smiling. I came to therapy 6 months earlier because panic attacks were starting to feel like background noise. Because every time I tried to date someone, anyone, I'd freeze, convinced they'd see through me and leave. Because somewhere between college graduation and now, I'd realized I wasn't straight, and the realization hadn't set me free. It had just added another layer of shame I carried like wet cement in my chest. Dr. Nathan Ellis was 38, PhD from UCLA, specializes in anxiety disorders and identity issues. Never married, no photos of a wife or kids on his desk, just a single frame picture of him hiking in the Cascades with a golden retriever. Soft-spoken, patient, the kind of calm that made you want to confess things you'd never told another living soul. We'd been making progress, or so I thought, until today. I finally pulled my wrist free and stood up. "This is wrong." "I know," he said. "Then why?" "Because you look like you were drowning, Caleb. And for one stupid second, I thought touching your arm might remind you you're still here, still breathing." I laughed, bitter and short. "That's not your job." "No, it isn't." I paced to the window. Outside, drizzle painted silver streaks on glass. Typical Portland March. Gray. Endless. Safe. "I should report you," I said. "You should." I turned. He hadn't moved from the chair. Hands folded in his lap now. Face unreadable except for the smallest tightening around his eyes. "But you won't," he added softly. I hated that he was right. Because reporting him meant admitting what had just happened. Meant naming it. Meant facing the part of me that hadn't wanted him to stop. I grabbed my jacket. "I'm done here." "Caleb, don't." I pointed at him without looking back. "Don't say my name like that." I left before he could reply. The elevator ride down 12 floors felt like falling. Outside, cold air slapped my face. I walked fast, hood up, hands shoved deep in pockets. Past the coffee shop where baristas knew my order. Past the bookstore that always smelled like rain and old paper. Past the park where guys my age jogged with AirPods in, carefree in ways I'd never been. My phone buzzed. "Mom. Hey, sweetie, just checking in. Dad's asking if you're coming home for Easter. He misses you." I stared at the screen until it went dark. I didn't reply. That night, I lay on my couch staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment his fingers closed around my wrist. Not hard, not demanding, just there, steady. I'd spent years teaching myself not to want things I couldn't have, not to look too long at the guy behind the counter at the gym, not to linger on the way certain men smiled. Open, easy, like the world hadn't taught them shame yet. Nathan Ellis wasn't like that. He was careful, controlled, and still, he'd broken the rule. Worse, he made me want to break it too. The next morning I called in sick. Then I opened my laptop and Googled therapist-patient boundary violation. Read horror stories, ethical codes, lawsuits. Felt sick. Then I searched his name. Nathan Ellis Portland Therapist Reviews. Most were glowing. Life-changing. Finally understood myself. Safe space. One from 6 months ago caught my eye. Dr. Ellis is incredible, but he's very personal. In a good way. Just be ready for real connection. I closed the tab. I spent the day cleaning my apartment. Scrubbed the kitchen sink until my knuckles bled. Washed every dish by hand. Anything to keep moving. At 6:47 p.m., my phone lit up. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then I answered. Caleb. His voice, lower than in session. Rougher. How did you get this number? You gave it to me the second week. In case of emergency panic attack. I remembered. I'd laughed when I typed it in. Said, I promise I won't drunk text you at 2 a.m. Now here we were. I shouldn't be calling, he said. Then hang up. Silence. I didn't hang up either. I want to make sure you were okay, he said finally. I'm not. Another pause. Can we talk? Not as therapist and client. Just two people. My heart slammed against my ribs. That's even worse. I know. I closed my eyes. Where? There's a bench near the Rose Garden in Washington Park. 8:30. If you don't show, I'll understand. He hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time. Then I grabbed my keys. The park was almost empty. Street lamps glowed soft yellow through wet branches. I saw him before he saw me, sitting on the bench, elbows on knees, staring at the ground like it held answers. He looked up when my shoes crunched on gravel. Neither of us spoke at first. I sat on the opposite end, far enough that we weren't touching, close enough that I could smell his cologne, cedar, and something clean. I resigned, he said without preamble. What? Handed him my notice this afternoon. Effective immediately. I can't sit across from you and pretend yesterday didn't happen. I swallowed. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Why? He turned toward me. I searching mine. Because the moment I touched you, I knew I'd already lost the right to help you. And I care too much about you to keep pretending otherwise. My throat tightened. I'm not going to make excuses, he continued. I fucked up. I broke every boundary I've ever taught. And I'm sorry. I looked away, watched droplets slide down a rose leaf. But I'm not sorry I feel this, he added quietly. I've spent weeks fighting it, telling myself it was countertransference, projection, anything clinical. But it's not. It's real. And it terrifies me. I laughed once shaky. You think I'm not terrified? He didn't answer. I rubbed my face. I came out to myself 3 years ago, in a hotel bathroom in Seattle after a work conference. Locked the door, sat on the floor, and cried because I finally admitted what I'd known since high school. And I still haven't told anyone. Not my parents. Not my sister. Not even my best friend. Nathan listened. No judgment. Just presence. I've spent every session with you trying to learn how to breathe without feeling guilty for existing. And then yesterday you touched me, and suddenly breathing felt possible. He exhaled slowly. I wish I could say I'm the hero here. I'm not. I don't need a hero, I said. I just need someone who sees me, really sees me, and doesn't run. Our eyes met. The air felt thinner. I see you, he said. I believed him. We sat there another 20 minutes. Not touching, not promising anything, just breathing the same damp night air. When I finally stood to leave, he stood too. Can I walk you to your car? He asked. I nodded. We walked in silence, side by side, not too close, not too far. In my car, I turned to him. I don't know what happens next, I said. Neither do I, but I want to find out. He smiled, small, careful, real. Me too. I got in a car, watched him walk away until he disappeared into the shadows of the park. That night, I didn't sleep. But for the first time in years, the quiet wasn't suffocating. It felt like possibility. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange limbo. No sessions, no calls, no texts, just knowing he existed somewhere in the same city, carrying the same secret weight. I threw myself into work, redesigned 3 client websites in record time, pitched a risky campaign to a new account and won it. My boss called me focused. My coworkers joked I'd started taking Adderall. Truth was, I was running from the moment I'd have to decide what came next. My sister Emily noticed first. We met for brunch at a place in the Pearl District, avocado toast, and overpriced mimosas. She slid into the booth across from me, already scanning my face like she could read code. You look different, she said. Good different or bad different? Awake different, like someone turned the lights on. I shrugged. New project. Keeps me busy. She narrowed her eyes. Bullshit. Emily was 23, finishing her master's in social work, perpetually suspicious of my everything's fine routine. We'd always been close, closer than most siblings, because we'd both grown up under Dad's microscope. He was a retired pastor. Mom still taught Sunday school. Rules were rules. Questions were discouraged. Emily came out as bisexual at 19. Told them over Christmas dinner. Dad didn't speak to her for 3 months. Mom cried every night. Eventually, they accepted her, but acceptance came with conditions. No girlfriends at family events, no political conversations at the table. I'd watched it happen and decided silence was safer. Now Emily leaned forward. Spill. There's nothing to spill. You're a terrible liar. I poked my eggs. I stopped seeing my therapist. Her eyebrows shot up. Why? Personal reasons. She studied me. Did he do something? My stomach flipped. No, not like that. But something happened. I didn't answer. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Caleb, whatever it is, you can tell me. I looked at her, really looked. The same hazel eyes as mine. Same stubborn mouth. The only person in my family who'd ever said, I love you, without adding a Bible verse afterward. I think I'm falling for someone I shouldn't, I said quietly. She didn't flinch. Older? Yeah. Married? No. Straight? I hesitated. I don't think so. Her expression softened. Okay, so what's the problem? He used to be my therapist. She exhaled slowly. Oh, yeah. She didn't lecture. Didn't quote ethics codes. Just sat with it. Do you trust him? She asked finally. I want to. Then maybe start there. I laughed. It's not that simple. It never is. We finished brunch mostly in silence. When we hugged goodbye, she whispered, You deserve to be happy, Caleb, even if it's messy. I drove home, replaying her words. That evening, I texted the number he'd called from. Can we meet again? Same bench. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. His reply came within minutes. I'll be there. The next night was colder. I wore a thicker jacket. He was already on the bench when I arrived, wearing a charcoal coat and a scarf looped loosely around his neck. We sat, closer this time. I keep thinking about what you said. I started. About seeing me. He nodded. I've spent so long hiding pieces of myself, I forgot what it felt like to be visible. He turned slightly toward me. You're visible to me. My chest ached. I told my sister, I said. His eyes widened. Everything. Not everything. Just enough. How did she take it? Better than I expected. He smiled faintly. Good. We talked for hours. Not about therapy. Not about boundaries. About normal things. Favorite books. Places we wanted to visit. The way rain sounded different on different roofs. Small, safe confessions that felt dangerous because they were honest. Around 10, he checked his watch. It's late. Yeah. Neither of us moved. I should go, he said. Okay. Still neither moved. Then he reached over, slowly, deliberately, and brushed his thumb across the back of my hand. I didn't pull away. His skin was warm, calloused at the base of his thumb. Real. I don't want to rush this, he said. But I also don't want to pretend I don't feel it. I turned my hand over, let our fingers lace together. Me neither. We sat like that until the park lights dimmed to half power. When we finally stood, he walked me to my car again. This time at the driver's door, he leaned in and pressed his forehead to mine. Just for a second, breathing the same air. Good night, Caleb. Good night, Nathan. I drove home shaking. Not from cold. From hope. The next few weeks became a quiet rhythm. We met at the bench 3 times a week. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we just sat. Sometimes our shoulders touched, and neither of us moved away. He told me about his childhood in Colorado. Strict father. Mother who left when he was 12. How he'd spent years trying to be the good son until he realized good sons don't have to hate themselves. I told him about growing up in a small house outside Boise. Dad's sermons every Sunday. Mom's quiet disappointment when I didn't date the girls from youth group. How I learned to smile so no one asked questions. We didn't kiss. Not yet. But every time our hands brushed, electricity ran up my arm. One night in early April, rain started while we were talking. We ducked under a cedar tree. Water dripped from branches. We stood close, laughing at how soaked we were getting anyway. Then the laughter faded. He looked at me, really looked, and I felt it in my bones. Caleb, he said, voice rough. I stepped closer. Our lips met softly, tentative. asking. When I kissed him back, the world narrowed to the taste of rain and cedar in him. We pulled apart after a long moment, breathing hard. I wanted to do that since the day you first walked into my office, he admitted. I smiled against his mouth. Took you long enough. He laughed, low, warm. We kissed again, slower, deeper. When we finally separated, foreheads pressed together, he whispered, "This changes everything." "I know," I said, and I wasn't scared anymore.